like to talk about this ongoing farce, effectively, that's been going on throughout the world, but especially in the manosphere as well. Basically, the reluctance to call women out completely, in a general sense, on their behavior. And constantly, and I've talked about this before, but the fact that feminism is still cited as this great woe, this great evil, and whereas I see, of course, feminism simply as a boogeyman. It's a guy running around in some white sheet saying boo. Now, to demonstrate just how farcical all of this is, I want to bring up two articles. Now, first, let me thank my subscribers for posting the links. After they had posted them, I'd read the articles and checked them out, and I thought they were relevant and useful for the content of this video. And both of the examples I'm citing here are examples in Japan, so it's outside, that is external to Western culture. And once again, I'm bringing this up to show that there are female human universals, in particular female universals in terms of behavior. And I want to show how women view men. And I'll talk about the consequences of that after I'm done covering the articles. Now, in the first instance, Japan Today, I'll be posting links to the articles, of course. I'll read off most of the article. Quote, "For some women, husband's death like a breath of fresh air. Mr. A is a 56-year-old real estate agent. What did his wife of 25 years want him to read? She handed him a recent issue of the Women's Weekly Josei 7. What was this now? It's all quotations. How women come to terms with their deaths, husbands' deaths. Complacently, Mr. A ran his eyes over the copy. He knew in advance, of course, what the bereaved would say. The usual thing, how sad they were, how they lost all zest for life, how hard it was to manage alone. His preconceptions hardly prepared him for the truth. Most of the widows in the magazine survey, 62% to be precise, were happy. Marriage was a prison. Widowhood was escape, freedom, a new life. Mr. A frowned. Why was his wife showing him this? It was hard not to get the point. The article reflected her feelings. He'd better wake up before it was too late. The story appears in Shukan Post, which follows up Joseph Seven's research with some interviews of its own. Sure enough, bereavement turns out to be far from synonymous with grief. There was a couple in our neighborhood, a Tokyo woman in her 60s tells the magazine, getting on towards 70, I'd say, and yet they seemed like a couple of lovebirds, always together. Then he died, and no sooner was the official mourning over than she opened a snack bar. Now, she chortled to her customers, I can do what I want. Turns out she had been saving secretly all the years of her marriage. She had her plans ready. She and the customers laugh over the joys of widowhood. Yumi, 50, was widowed early, her husband dying of a brain hemorrhage several years ago. He was an elite salaryman, totally absorbed in his work. She was a typical housewife, cooking, cleaning, and raising the kids. They lived in company housing, which meant being surrounded constantly by company personnel and their spouses. The company hierarchy was as much enforced in the apartment building as it was in the office. The first thing Yumi did after her husband's death was move out, with what relief can easily be imagined. And then she dyed her hair, went to nail art, bought herself a mini skirt, thinking to herself all the while, this is life. This is what I've been missing all these years. And so on and so forth. So you kind of get the point. I mean, there are a couple of other examples. Yeah. Many women, says Ozawa, sacrifice their lives to housework, child rearing, caring for aged parents and in-laws. Their husbands' death comes like a liberation. Free at last. They travel, go to the theater, play golf. So, there you go. That's one example, and let me talk about the other example before I continue. So, this other example is somewhat amusing. Quote, women who force their husbands to cheat, whatever that means. In search of bigger divorce settlements, some Japanese women are tricking their husbands into affairs. Hiromi Fukuda, 26, meets her married prey in the Tokyo district of Shinjuku in the late afternoon. Her uniform is anything short, shiny to show off her long legs, and a large heart-shaped hairpin that holds back her glossy bangs. and doubles as a tiny camera she operates with a remote in her pocket, snapping photos of her target as he takes her to a seedy hotel. Two more agents hiding nearby click away with telephoto lenses. Fukuyuda is forgive my pronunciation, Wakare Saiya, a professional breakup artist, working for a Tokyo-based detective agency called Secret Shadows. She is hired by wives who want to entrap their husbands and ensure a better divorce settlement. Women initiate 75% of Japanese divorces. 27% of marriages end in one, a rate that has doubled in the past 15 years. So more news that's not new news, that is old news. But unless they have had hard proof of infidelity of some other wrongdoing, they risk being awarded pitiful payouts by the courts. And this is quoting the sex worker. Women have had enough of being treated badly, says Fukuda, a psych major who took the seducer job for the excitement and the $200,000 a year salary. It's the norm in Japan for husbands to cheat, so I don't feel bad about tricking them on behalf of their wives. And it goes on and on. So here you have a situation where women are hiring other women to seduce their husbands, to force them is the wrong word, but to trick them, I suppose. Yeah, just trick them into cheating. And in the other case, we have women who are rejoicing with a breath of fresh air at the deaths of their husbands. Now, getting back to the farce, may I ask the question again, how long do we have to not tell the world the truth about the nature of the relationship between men and women? And by that I mean, these are not anomalies. This is not anomalous behavior. These are not grand exceptions. These are not fruitcakes doing really odd things. This is what women do, and this is how women regard men. Now, I'm not calling this evil or bad or anything. I'm simply describing it. I'm saying this is what they do. And of course, to the world outside, this is all anomalous behavior. But within the manosphere, the so-called manosphere, we know this is how women are. And yet, people who insist on being politically correct, constantly naming feminism as the major issue, calling for me, for example, extreme and saying that this is normative female behavior, are not only not helping, they're doing a disservice to men. I mean, the thing about marriage, the real issue about marriage, whether it's in the United States or in Japan or elsewhere, is not the issue of, well, she can divorce you and take everything you have and take your kids away. That's actually secondary. The real issue is that you're just a fucking toaster oven. That's the issue. I fail to comprehend how any man in his right mind, upon grasping this and comprehending this, would want to enter into essentially a business contract where you're a toaster oven and you will be thrown away. You will be thrown away because you're a cheap toaster oven and you're only good for toasting the toast. That is, making the money, provisioning her. And she's looking, and some of these women, it seems, are looking forward. Not Western women, mind. These are Japanese, are looking forward to the day you die. You pathetic provider workhorse. They're looking forward to it. And some of these other women, it seems, not in the West, but in Japan, are so desperate to get your money that they're paying other women to trick you into cheating on them. I mean, how much longer must we continue this silly farce and pretend that this is not that this is anomalous and this is not normative behavior? Women change in reaction to their environment. At an earlier time, it was a lot more difficult. This kind of behavior was far too risky for women, so they never engaged in it. So they all pulled off the Cinderella stunt. Everyone thought they were really nice and sweet and loved their men. And within the blink of an eye, in terms of historical standards, they threw their husbands to the curb. They took their husbands' money. They kept their children. And they said, fuck off to the rest of the world. And they started supplementing themselves with government income at the expense of other people. And I mean, how much longer do we have to continue this farce? Does it have to be limited to a few hundred or 1,000 people on the internet and YouTube to talk about this? in a truthful and honest manner. It's just mind-boggling. Once again, this is not in the West. This is in Japan. So no more of the humbug and the bollocks about, well, cultures are so different and people behave differently in different cultures and blah, blah. Yeah. One human nature, one universal female nature across the boards. You are just a fucking used toaster oven. Now, of course, if you want to be politically correct and politically expedient, then sure, yeah, you can't say things like that. I don't need to be. That's the difference between me and so many other people. That's the difference between me and Barbara Russ and so many other people. And we don't need to talk about the boogeyman in the white sheets. Take them off. Feminism is just a front man, basically. We know what feminism is. It's been talked about ad nauseum. We've talked about it many, many times. And this is just further proof that I'm adducing to show you just how it is that women view men. The tragedy, the farce of marriage, once again, is not that you can lose everything you have. It's that it was a fantasy to begin with. Your delusion that she somehow loved you. Your delusion that you can find a woman who's going to love you as a person for who you are rather than some mechanical tool, a draft horse, being pulled at the reins. I mean, this is a fantasy. And we need to stop collectively as a society telling men that this is a viable option. Is your self-esteem as a man so low that you have to predicate everything, everything, on your estimation as a human being by a woman, by your wife, your girlfriend? This knowledge can save lives. Do you want to be together with someone who views you as a mechanical part, as something, as a thing that does its job until it breaks down, upon which it's thrown away? And in some cases, thrown away permanently, that is, after death. These women are happy. I just don't, I'm a bit flabbergasted in a sense because I just don't know how much more we need to talk about, how many more examples we need to cite. And in saying that, let's revisit Robert Briffaut. Now, I've said in the past that I'm more than willing to change my mind or opinion on things as new data and evidence arise. And I do still think Briffaut's observations are pertinent, relevant, and accurate. I wouldn't call it a law, though. I'm disinclined to call it a law. It's not a law, but it's a description. We know, for example, that women do the selection in most sexually dimorphic species. They choose the males they want to mate with. And we know that you provide them with, if you don't provide them with benefits, they don't want to see you. And up until the point where you do provide them with benefits, and when that stops, they'll throw you away. We just saw two prominent examples of that with the Japanese incidents. And there are thousands, if not millions, of examples across the globe. In the West, in Eastern countries. You saw what it said in the article. 75% of divorces are initiated by women. Are we to believe that that's because all these men are supposedly cheating on these women? Or is it just their avarice? That they want the big payout, the big paycheck? So it's frustrating in a sense to me, having been here a while, trying to explain, trying to help men, trying to prevent men from getting into this mess, when we still have this ongoing political correctness. Take a person like Erin Pizzey, and I'm not dissing Erin Pizzey. Obviously she's done a lot of good work in the domestic violence department. I'm not dissing her, but she still believes that feminism is a great evil. Are we going to blame what's happening in Japan also on feminism, a radically different culture? Combination of Shintoism and Buddhism. Is that feminism? how much more do we need to drag this on? And quite frankly, we're at the point where we just can't afford, men can't afford, to believe in this crap anymore, to believe in the Cinderella bullshit, fantastical, delusional, chimerical fairy tale. Doesn't work anymore. You know, this has to end. This has to end. It has to end by the cessation of being politically correct and telling the world the way it is. We can't go on just being confined in limited numbers to the internet, to YouTube. This needs to get out. And the funny thing is, if you look at the comments, the commentary on some of these articles, is that often it's cited as anomalous. Although there are counterexamples of people living in Japan and say, yeah, that's how I've come to know Japanese women. Mind you, women making those observations. So enough is enough. I mean, this farce is just, it's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. We don't need to keep on doing this shit and keep on telling people this stuff. And as for myself, I'm just going to keep on keeping on and telling you about the nature of men and women. I'm going to be finding evidence. I'll continuously give you these articles because it's important to do. It's necessary. You know, let others be politically correct. Let them say I'm extreme. Let them say I'm wrong about 1.5 or 7.9% about whatever. But ultimately, the service that's provided to men by telling them the true nature about themselves and women is going to be more valuable than all the politically expedient, politically correct claptrap you might hear from, say, ABFM or other people. I mean, this is a runaway train. Now, we're at the end juncture. We really are, in a very real sense. The farce just has to end. That's all I got to say.